But we'll start with the 49ers against the Rams because it's our local team here in LA. The Rams are going to the playoffs. The 49ers might be the number one seed in the NFC. But really, from out of nowhere, Patrick, the Rams had a big-time bounce-back season. I don't know if a lot of people saw this coming, but we saw the emergence of Puka Nacua at receiver. We saw Kyren Williams at running back. We saw these guys step up, these rookies, and it helped the Rams kind of reestablish themselves in the NFC. So this week's game is going to be a bunch of backups. Don't get too caught up in what the score is going to be between the Rams and the 49ers. Just know that the Rams are legit, and they already made the playoffs. Their spot has been clinched, and they look like a contender, I think.
Could be a very scary team to be in the playoffs to play if you're another team facing the Rams. Who saw this coming? I think absolutely no one saw this coming and thought it was going to be a way down year for the Rams. Who would have thought that they are going to rest the starters for the playoffs for this? Unbelievable. I have to say, kudos to the Rams. And I think it goes to show how great a coach he is, man. What a great coach he is.
Yeah, you know what? A couple weeks ago, I'm like you. I thought the Rams would be fighting for their playoff lives come the final game of the season. Nah, dude, they're already locked in. They know they're going to the playoffs, and they're going to rest a bunch of their starters like Matt Stafford. He's not going to play. And Puka Nacua, though, I think he might play because he's only 28 yards away from the NFL record for receiving yards by a rookie in a single season. So I think Sean McVay might just roll him out there to get like 30 yards and break the record just so he can have the record. But yeah, don't put a lot of weight on what this final score is going to be. You're not going to see a lot of the starters, and that's a good thing because that's another week for the Rams to get ready for the playoffs. And Patrick, this is kind of interesting. There's still a lot to play for in this final week of the season for a lot of teams across the NFL, and the matchups are not set in stone yet. So potentially, the Rams could play the Lions in the first round of the playoffs, which would mean Matt Stafford going back to Detroit to play his former team, and also the Rams would see Jared Goff, their former quarterback.
What an interesting matchup it would be for sure. And, the Rams are coming out of nowhere, doing an awesome season. We had, of course, the controversial call from the Cowboys and the Lions. My goodness, we learned all about reporting, didn't we? Oh, my goodness. What a matchup that would be. That would be great and very interesting, man. I mean, the swapped quarterbacks would go at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great storyline, with that big trade for Stafford a couple seasons ago. And yeah, the Rams are one of the hotter teams in the NFL going into the playoffs. And the Lions have been one of the, the fun Cinderella stories, man. The turnaround of a franchise that has not seen a lot of success ever in the history of the franchise. So I think that would be a lot of fun. But like I said, the Lions versus Rams matchup is not a for sure thing. There's still a lot up in the air going into this final weekend across the NFL.
No, the Lions, I mean, there's fans that are 30 years old since the last time they saw them get a title, the NFC title, at least their division title.
Yeah, they've hung tough, man. That's the way you enjoy it more as a fan, man, when you go through some hard, lean years. And they've had a hard, lean history, man, that the whole time. So we'll see. That could be interesting, but I'm happy for the Lions. The other kind of matchups that we should keep an eye on, maybe the biggest game, and they moved it, they flexed it to Sunday night because it's a division championship. It's Bills versus the Dolphins. The winner of that matchup will be your AFC East champion. And Patrick, there's a weird scenario where the Buffalo Bills could either be the number 2 seed in the AFC behind Baltimore, or if they lose to Miami, they could be out of the playoffs entirely. That's how much is still up in the air this weekend.
I do believe now the Bills have come to life, and they've kind of realized that they are a really good team. So it wouldn't shock me at all if they do become number 2, like you said. I believe the Bills and the Rams are the 2 most dangerous teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Bills have really come on strong. They kind of stumbled around throughout the regular season, but it looks like they found their footing at the end. And yeah, they were supposed to be one of the Super Bowl contenders. They were supposed to be one of the best teams this season. And I think they're finally starting to show that, I guess, right at the right time. But if they can beat Miami, they would be the number 2 seed behind Baltimore, which means, if let's say they played Kansas City in the second round, Kansas City would have to go to them, or whoever would have to go to Buffalo.
It is the year of the dangerous teams in the playoff. I even have a third most dangerous team, and that is Joe Flacco and the Browns.
Oh my gosh, what a story. Old Joe Flacco from out of
Wow.
nowhere leading. Listen, the Browns, I'm a 49er fan, so I go back, in the middle of the season. The Browns beat the 49ers, and I remember at the time, I'm like, man, the Browns stink. Why did we lose to the Browns? In hindsight, Patrick, the Browns are actually pretty good, and now Joe Flacco at quarterback, he's got that offense humming. Like the Cleveland Browns are a real threat to the AFC, especially if Kansas City's not going to be what Kansas City necessarily is. I know Baltimore, who's going to be the number one seed, they don't want any piece of the Browns. It's hard to beat a divisional rival in the playoffs.
Classic, you can't write this stuff.
Yeah, this is so many fun storylines in the NFL. And there's one playoff game where it's the winner goes, or I'm sorry, there's one game this week where the winner goes into the playoffs and the loser is out of the playoffs. It's basically a winner take all. It's a week 17 playoff game between the Colts and the Texans. So everything's on the line. The winner knows they're going to the playoffs. The loser is going home. And you don't get that very much in the NFL, but we do have that scenario this week.
January Madness.
Dude, I love it. I love it, man. Let's talk some NFL and pivoting to college football here because, we saw the Chargers. They fired Brandon Staley, their head coach. They got rid of their general manager, Tom Telesco. And now there's all kinds of rumors about Jim Harbaugh leaving the University of Michigan. And, of course, they're connecting Harbaugh to the Chargers because Harbaugh's going to be the big name this offseason. And the Chargers, if they're going to make a splash, if they're going to get a former quarterback to coach up Justin Herbert, and really get that offense going, maybe it's Jim Harbaugh. But, man, he's kind of busy. He's not going to say anything right now, obviously, because Michigan's going to play for the national title against Washington on Monday.
Right, so we don't really know if he's keeping it quiet because he doesn't want to distract his team or if it's because he's going to go to the Chargers, because it sure seems like Michigan's been trying to nail him down and say, hey, say you won't go to the NFL, and he will not do it.
There's been long rumored speculation that he wants to get back to the NFL, that winning a Super Bowl means a lot to him. So can you imagine if Michigan wins the national championship on Monday, would it basically seal the deal? Like, would it be better for Michigan not to win the title so Harbaugh would come back and they throw a ton of money at him? I don't know, but like if he doesn't say anything, if he continues to be quiet, he will be the big name everyone's talking about, and the Chargers do need to make a big splash because Justin Herbert is in his prime, and every year the Chargers are supposed to be good, and they always fall short. They're always underwhelming, so keep an eye on that. Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers.
You know what it is, the old sibling rivalry. He wants to get back and win one against his brother John.
Dude, think about that. Remember when he was the coach of the 49ers, Jim Harbaugh played his brother in the Ravens in the Super Bowl, man. Like, how crazy was that? I think back about that. I'm like, dude, that is so wild. Two brothers going head-to-head like that in Baltimore and San Francisco, the Harbaughs.
And John won that one. Jim says, I want to win one now.
Yeah, and he might get his chance, man. Can you imagine if he won a national championship at Michigan and then he goes to the NFL and tries to win a Super Bowl with the Chargers? I don't know if the Chargers would be an instant Super Bowl contender with Harbaugh as the head coach, but he would obviously be the biggest name that the Chargers could go out there and make a long reach to try to get their guy.
Definitely.
Man, so we'll keep an eye on that. I'm a big Jim Harbaugh fan, and I like Michigan in the national title game. If we want to talk about that real quick, I like the Wolverines on Monday. Patrick, I know you're a Seattle guy. The Huskies are in Seattle. I know they're probably going bonkers in the Pacific Northwest, and this is a future Big Ten matchup for the national title.
A classic matchup for sure. I mean, growing up, this is what I would have seen in the Rose Bowl as a young child.
Yeah.
And what a way it would be to sign off the old Pac-12 if University of Washington could pull this off. You're right. I just came back from Seattle doing family stuff, and they're losing their minds up there.
Yeah, last year, of the Pac-12, that'd be amazing for Washington. Just to make the finals is amazing if they won the national championship in their final year. And then, Washington versus Michigan will be a conference game next year. And you're right, it's like the old Rose Bowl, the Pac-10 champion, the old Pac-10 champion against the Big Ten champion. So it feels traditional. It feels right for these two teams. And they're both undefeated. I guess they got it right at the end.
Yeah, here we go, man. Pasadena was always the promised land for me as
Yeah.
a young child. Man, we will know more the next time we talk to Pep, and we'll really be getting ready for that game on Monday. Pep, tell them how to get your stuff.
Oh, man, national title game on Monday, and then we'll finally know the NFL playoff picture, too, all the matchups. It'll be a lot of fun. In the meantime, check me out on Inland Sports all over social media. We got the old Inland Sports YouTube channel. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. That's Inland Sports.
Thanks, Pep.